Good afternoon, everyone. This is Greg Aden from Aden Leadership here in beautiful Denver, Colorado. And today I have a special guest with me, Michael Lopez, who I believe you make your home in the great state of California.
I do, just outside of Sacramento.
Okay. Have you ever heard of Auburn, California, by
Yeah,
chance?
it's just on the other side of the freeway from us. I'm in Folsom, and so it's about 40 miles from here.
Good wine there, I understand, or a few
Yeah,
wineries in the area.
yeah. Same with Lodi,
Okay.
a little bit farther south. So we're surrounded by good stuff out here. A lot of nature, a lot of agriculture. I think about a fourth of the country's agriculture comes from the Central Valley of California, which is a part of where we're at. So it's a pretty cool spot.
Unreal. Well, Michael, I want to dig in. First of all, again, you are currently a partner at Profit. We call that a Profit is a global strategy consulting firm. Tell us a little bit about what does that mean to someone who's just hearing global strategy consulting firm. What do you really do?
Profit got itself started a couple decades ago in the brand strategy. Literally wrote the book on brand strategy. David
Hmm.
Ocker, who's one of our founders, is sort of the founding father of modern day brand strategy. But since that time, we've grown capabilities that have gone well beyond that into overall growth strategy, helping companies achieve greater levels of growth into customer experience, into employee experience, into brand strategy, into marketing excellence, digital transformation. So we really, for a small company, we're about 600 people globally, have
Okay.
a really diverse set of capabilities and a unique proposition in the market. We're sort of just creative enough to be different than the other big companies, but just capable enough to hold our own in the same strategy realm. So it's a really fun place to be.
And a year plus for you, Michael, it looks like. What attracted you to Profit, or what about you attracted Profit to you?
Yeah, well, it's been a couple of years, and some of the other big players and good companies certainly offer a lot of value. A lot of it I think gets to a bit about what my purpose is as well, which is I felt like we were having some of the wrong conversations with clients,
Hmm.
and I wanted to go to a place where I could be a bit more honest, a bit more provocative in terms of being clear about how companies change, why they change, why they don't. And I just felt like I needed to find a place where I could do that, and Profit really afforded me that. And in the last year or so, a lot of what I've been writing about and posting about really is on that theme and that brand, and I've just had a great time.
Great. You had me at customer experience, but even more employee experience. Now, a lot of us former corporate people, we've been in those organizations. I
Yeah,
was with IHG for 16 plus years, and don't know if you did any or have been involved in any holiday or hospitality branding, but they're all about the
but
brand. They're all
yeah,
about the customer
yeah,
experience. But you pique my interest when you talk about an employee experience. Tell me what that means to you and whether you want to promote Profit in that regard or not. But I'd like to have a real conversation with you about what does it mean today to be focused on the employee experience?
yeah, yeah. This is a phrase that was created well before I got there, but it's one that I believe in, which is very profoundly. So I did not come up with this, but I think it
Sure.
really hits home, which is that companies don't change, people change, and then they change the company or the organization. And I feel so strongly in the belief that companies are just groups of people joining together to create a service, a product, a purpose, a value, and it's the performance of those people that creates outcomes.
Yeah.
This ambiguous thing called the company, unless you're an AI engine, that thing
Right.
called the company is a collection of people pointing in a direction to achieve something. And so for me, at the end of the day, it's really about, and what we do at Profit is we think about companies through that lens, and we work through the human being to activate performance rather than thinking about just the processes and the structures, which are part of the company, but
Yeah.
but it's about more than that. So for us, and for me particularly, in the way that I operate as a coach, so much of what I do is built on that premise.
Love it. You know, as soon as you said that, I immediately went to family. The people, the human beings, the kids, the parents within the family make the
Yeah,
family. The family unit doesn't make the people. And
that's right.
I know I've simplified it, but I used to be blonde and I'm still Polish and some German, so I like to make things simple. Not that my listeners don't say they need it as well.
Yeah.
Um, I got it just kind of off the thing. Occidental College. Now, did you ever get teased about He
Oh yeah,
accidentally went to college. And anyway, I don't want to
we,
razz you, but tell me, how
we
did
get
you
that one
pick?
all the time. We also get if it's just a dental school, so
Oh,
it is of course not
Occidental.
that. So Occidental is a small liberal arts college down in the Pasadena area, down sort of north of LA.
Sure.
I'll be super honest about why I went there. They allowed me to play college football,
There
and
you go.
my first day on campus was the day I reported to football camp. I never
Okay.
took a visit. I never showed up. They said I could come play 4 more years of college football. I'm a big believer, and every good thing I've learned about being a leader came from team sports, and so
Amen.
it was a wonderful experience. My teammates are still my brothers. My coaches are still parents to me, and I just couldn't say enough good things about
No, I just wanted to get you to address that. In your descriptor in your LinkedIn, you mentioned words like compassion and collaboration. And as you're working with clients, and you stated you are a coach.
it. Yeah.
Nice to always interview a brother who is coaching. What does compassion and collaboration mean to you, Michael? And in today's world, relative to growing a great brand, growing a great company, having superior and connected teams. How do those two words fit into your work?
Well, collaboration, I think, is every great thing I've ever achieved individually has been because of a group of people around me
Mm,
that have been part of a team, and I believe so deeply in the power of teams. It's where I prefer to operate. I'm a part at any like most of us are at any one time. We're a part of 4 or 5 different teams, and each of
yeah.
those could be personal teams, close friends that nurture growth. They can be professional teams and companies that come together for a couple of weeks on a project. They can be long-standing teams. And so for me, I think collaboration is really about how do I get the best out of you and how do you get the best out of me to achieve a goal that we both believe in. There's a lot of science and art around the techniques, which we can get into, but it really comes down to that for me. And it's not just how I work; it's how I live my life. So there's sort of that piece of it. And for me, the compassion side is understanding that my experience is not everyone else's experience. And I love the phrase, and I've heard this before. That I'm sure you've used it, right? Everyone is fighting a battle that you don't know anything about, and
Right.
so much of the time we come to our interactions with others with a deep sense of ourselves, right? Nobody
Yeah.
thinks about you more than you do.
Right.
And for me, compassion is a reminder to pause and understand that other person's experience in a team, because we can only go as fast as we can go together. And so coming from sports to maybe make that analogy, my abilities aren't the same as my teammates, and my other teammates not the same as the other person. And so how do we get the best out of each other by understanding what we're all going through individually and collectively? So that just it just sort of forms everything that I think about.
Well, that'd be a great chapter for a book to link those two words together. And I love
Yeah,
how you said come from the place of where the other person might be coming from. And Michael, relative to high performing teams, you also talk about change management and transformation.
yeah,
And I'm not suggesting they're the same, but
no.
uh, change and transformation. Do you transform as you're changing? Do you change to transform? Is there any connection there? And tell us how you help your clients in both those areas.
Well, I certainly think we could spend a lot of time on the synonyms and figure out. It can be a bit of a religious debate. I can give you my point of view, and
Please.
I know transformation is a bit of the buzzword lately, but the way I think about it, I had a friend of mine, Nick Cavuto, who, if you don't know, you should know, and you should have him on your podcast. He's incredible.
Okay.
We were talking about this particular topic and how I help companies, and the way he reflected back to me was the difference of shifts versus speed. And if you think about, like, so we were just in Europe. I was there. Formula One is a big component growing in the U.S., but big component there. Every car has a top end speed, right? But that speed is only achieved if the driver in that car understands how to progress from first to second to third between turns, other vehicles on, other cars on the track. And so it's this relationship between not just what is my top speed, what is my performance, which is how I think about transformation, which is can I accelerate where my top end eventually can get to? But change is the progress through the shifts that actually allow me to get there. And where I think we make where I don't want to call it a mistake, where I think we lose focus is everyone wants to go 100 miles an hour, but you don't go there in a second. You go there in several seconds. Everyone wants to lose 10 pounds, but you don't lose 10 pounds after one workout. You have to progress through a series of actions. And if you can learn how to shift gears with consistency, with accuracy, and when you make mistakes, if you know how to recover, that will get you to the speed you want to be to. So that's how I think about it. And where I help companies, and this isn't just for organizations, but for people, is I don't want you to think about your top end speed. I want you to focus on the shifts. What
Yeah.
are the behaviors? What are the habits? What are the systems that we can put in place that you can do and get good at every day in order to make that change? I just saw, it's sort of funny that you asked the question. I just saw a reel yesterday. I'm a big NFL fan, and there was a test of an NFL player and a Formula One driver, and they were dropping balls, and they had to catch them before they hit the ground. And the Formula One player, the Formula One driver, the reflexes on this individual were otherworldly. It was incredible to watch someone who could adjust that quickly. And for me, that is such a great analogy for people who are successful, companies who are successful. They understand how to react and shift gears quickly.
Yeah. Well,
Sorry, long story.
I tell you what, that's a beautiful segment, and I love your recommendation about how quickly can we adjust, how
Yeah,
quickly. And in my practice, Michael, I'm always asking not what it is you want to change, but what possible shifts will you make? Not can you make, but will
right,
you make to become a better leader, a better man,
right.
a better woman, a better human being?
Yeah,
And the shift word is very, very uh, formidable with me as well. With all of this said, the thing that really piqued my interest about who you are and what you do and what you stand for, and it's one of your hashtags, growth mindset.
yeah,
I'm I'm a huge proponent of understanding the difference between a fixed and a growth mindset. And if there's one thing a leadership coach does, and I'm sure you do it in your own work, is you don't want to keep a business stagnant. You don't want to let somebody, go backwards. You always want them
yeah,
to focus on growth. But we can hope and wish for someone else, but the person themselves have to have a growth mindset.
yeah.
What's your relationship with the phrase growth mindset, and how do you use that in your work?
Yeah. So I think about it in two ways. So I'll answer the question, but then I'm gonna maybe go in a slightly different direction. Just today, I put a post on LinkedIn. So another post from Andrew Huberman, which many people know, and I'm a big fan of his work, around a study that was done, a multi-year study on the impact of a growth mindset around this concept of stress, and that the idea that stress can be enhancing. And I come from a background in the athletic world, and stress is essential. And so the example of a growth mindset is somebody who sees stress as debilitating. And of course, there are thresholds into danger and lack of safety and all of that. But
Sure.
but stress, when properly applied, is what actually triggers growth for people.
Mm,
And so a growth mindset is someone that looks at that experience and says, "This is good for me." It may not feel good, but it is good for me in some way. And
yeah.
so for me, I'm somebody who really wants to get 1% better every day. I know that sounds cliched. My wife will tell you it's unfortunately true because I drag her through these experiences. But I just turned 50, and I did a post about I consider myself halfway. I want to live to be 100, and I feel like I'm just getting started. And
Yeah.
so people are considered old. I heard this phrase the other day on another podcast was you're considered old when you stop looking forward to the future. And
Amen.
for me, that growth mindset is, what am I going to do tomorrow? How am I going to get better tomorrow? And I don't care if I'm 50 or 60 or 70 or 80. If there's something to look forward to, then you have a growth mindset. And so for me, that's kind of the first part of this, which is an attitude, right? It's sort of a belief that you carry with you.
Yeah.
The second thing I'll say, which is a little maybe counter to that, is I'm a bit more of a I prescribe a bit more to the idea that it's easier to act your way into believing than sometimes to believe your way into acting. And for me, action and action oriented strategies are where I start with practicing new behaviors, practicing new strategies, getting feedback from others, experimenting, trying on different scenarios, different whether it's an exercise or a sort of an emotional or social behavior, because that's where growth happens. It happens in the repetitions. You don't learn to serve a tennis ball by reading about serving a tennis ball. You learn to serve a tennis ball by trying. And so for me, I try to balance those two things of not over rotating on the kind of cliched idea of let's all just talk about feeling better. I like
Yeah.
moving into places where feeling becomes a response to feedback and to action. So
Yeah.
I try to balance those two things, and that whether it's a client and a company or a CEO or a 15-year-old athlete that I coach, it's all the same stuff.
Well, I really appreciate that because I'm always asking, what are you doing? What do you want to do? And the do to me is action. And it's not, I like what you're thinking, how you feeling today. And I'm
Yeah,
not saying I'm um, uh, I don't care about people's feelings, but I'm always more impressed, I guess. And I'm more interested in what are you up to? What are you
yeah,
doing?
yeah,
And where did you go and why? What did you learn? And so growth, get better, do more, stay in action. I don't know any other way. I'm 60 now, and I look forward to tomorrow, and
yeah,
I don't know that I'll ever stop looking forward to tomorrow.
yeah,
And my thing at the end of life is when I can't do anything about tomorrow. And I just want to say that again, when I can't really do anything about tomorrow, that's probably when I'm not going to be much use to anybody, much
yeah,
less myself.
yeah,
And when I'm just laying there and I can't do anything, please unplug me and know I've been well.
yeah.
But
Well, I think you're hitting on something there, Greg, that's also really important, which is there's a lot of science and research about people who are anxious, are nervous about the future, and people who are depressed are thinking about the past. And I do think there's this balance of looking forward to the future does not remove your responsibility from acting today. And I think that's
amen.
what you're getting at, which is what
Yep.
can I do now? And then how do I keep that excitement about what's coming tomorrow and the opportunities that it presents? And so I spend a lot of time coaching companies and people on thinking about this phrase that, the old phrase, there's no time like the present. I like to change that to the only time is the present
Yeah.
because the only thing you can affect is right now. And
Amen.
so how do we get your focus here but keep your enthusiasm forward. And that's it. We all have different ways to do it.
It's hard to follow someone who's not going anywhere.
Yeah. No,
I
that's
mean,
a good point. Yeah.
if you think about follow the leader and they're just standing there or they're worried or they're stuck in their own muddled concern. But
Yeah.
I also want to address what you said about stress. Stress is an opportunity. Stress is there for you to see what you can do. Now, you can always call a timeout and say, I can't handle this. I don't want to be underwater anymore. I mean, literally underwater. Well,
Yeah.
then come to the surface and look around and make sure you're okay, and then go back to doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
But I believe people that eat stress for breakfast are probably the Michael Lopez's of the world that say, "Hey,
Yeah.
what's next? This tastes good." And other
Yeah.
people are afraid of it because, again, I'm not going to be anti-action oriented. I'm just going to say, for the people who get up every day and they have a plan and they are action oriented, God bless you. I recognize you. And I have this thing called going northeast or heading northeast. And I don't know if you can kind of follow my pin here, but if you
Yeah.
you wake up every day and you do the same thing for 30 days, you're probably going to end up right here. Not
Yeah.
not much shift.
Oh, I
But
love
if
it. Yeah.
if you wake up every day and you do something just a little better, you're going to end up here. Now, it doesn't take a scientist to say that this is better than this, but what does better mean? Well,
Yeah.
the only reason you want to do this is if you're focused on doing, growing, and being better. And back to our point, a growth mindset. I
Yeah.
know I can do it. I want to do it and get out of my way or help me. And if you can't help me and you don't want to get out of my way, I'll figure it out.
Yeah. I love that Northeast. I'm gonna steal that from you. And
Please.
because I think one of the things I find in my work with companies, but it's true with people, is the other challenge they experience. It's look, it's not that we can't change because we are the most adaptable species on human Earth as far as we know. I mean, at least to date. It's that we have to understand the things that help us go northeast, or the things that keep us staying flat. And for a lot of people, I think individually, right? January comes around and I want to read more, exercise more, I want to sleep more, I want to be a better spouse, I want to be a better parent, right? We stack all of these things together, and it's just impossible to change all those things at once. So how am I picking the one thing I want to go northeast on for a while and get really good at that? And then now I've changed the plateau and my northeast is a little bit higher and I go to the next one. And companies are the same.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to grow revenue. Everyone wants to earn more profit. Everyone wants to be leaner and faster and innovate and build new products. But the truth is you can't do all those things at once. And so what
Mm-mm.
I spend my time helping companies and people with is understanding, first of all, what is really your first next best goal?
Yep.
And then second, what are the things that actually are going to put you in a position to get there? And how do we line up your behaviors? Because sometimes it just gets overwhelming, right? And it's like, I got to do all this stuff. I see a million Instagram ads or a million Harvard Business Reviews, and I'm trying to pick the most important thing, right? Pick the next thing and go get really good at that, and then move on to the next thing. So I spend a lot of time helping people and companies focus, not necessarily go slower. You're still shifting, but you're
Yeah.
focusing on what I'm trying to work on. So
If you were, and I love asking my guests this question, if you were, and you pick the age group 20 to 22, they're still in college, getting ready to graduate, or
sure.
graduate students, or the first year or two in a big consulting firm, and they came to you and they said, Michael Lopez, tell me what you're all about. Tell me what's your why. And you said some of it today, but what would you now say to them so they're listening as to here's a bright man who's had an amazing career and still is helping companies grow. What would you tell them that would stop and get them to think, all right, what's my why at 22 or 24?
Uh, well, I think the shortest answer is my purpose really is to give back the things that I've learned and experienced, and I'm still learning,
Mm-hmm.
and the lessons that I wish I had been given, and quite honestly listened to, that I did get but I didn't listen to. Uh, One of the mistakes young people make is they don't ask older people questions about their experience, and then when they do, they somehow don't listen to the answer, which
Yeah.
is one of my regrets in life. But like I said, I'm a coach, and as a coach, I think I have three obligations. The first one is to be honest with people and companies, and to challenge them with concepts and ideas and conversations that may not be comfortable but are necessary. The second part is to support them through that experience, and to be helpful with the strategies and tactics that actually help you grow. And then I think the third thing is to lead by example. And I say this to my kids all the time. I will never ask you to do something that I am unwilling to do or haven't done myself, because hypocrisy is one of my least favorite things in the world. And so,
Amen.
kids, particularly, they are wonderful observers. They're not great interpreters, particularly when they're younger, but they watch what you do. They see what you do. A young
Yeah.
person coming to a consulting company, they see what you do. They watch your behavior. They see everything. And so, leading by example for me is the best teaching tool, because it really is something that they can emulate. And so for me, that's why I'm here. And I just feel that coaching gives me a chance to do that, whether it's on a field with a 10-year-old athlete, or in a conference room with a 20-year-old junior consultant, or with someone who's older than me, who's been around, who can still
Sure.
learn something from me. And so it's really one of the best parts of my life. I feel like it's all coming together, and it's just been nice to blend the personal side of kind of who I am and how I live with the professional side, and it all just feels like one big continuum now.
Well, it is, because your personal Michael Lopez is the same person as the professional Michael Lopez, and what you said there, and you may not have even heard yourself say it. Yes, leading by example will always be one of the more powerful traits of a great leader. because as you said, it's not so much that you wouldn't do what you're asking them to do, you're actually doing it. So they're watching you. And I've said this 100 times if I've said it once. Kids, followers, they're not always listening to us, but they're always watching.
Yeah.
And then they don't even say, wow, dad, that was wonderful. But they tell their friends, you should have seen my dad the other night, how he was taking care of my mom or how he helped my little
Yeah.
sister. And those things, we're not doing it to get accolades. We're doing it because we know people are watching us every
Yeah.
single day. And are you being judgmental in the supermarket? Are you actually helping somebody who you
Yeah.
don't know where they're coming from, tying all this back to compassion? And do we really reach out and help? Or do we say, why are they here? Or why are they yelling? And we don't know where they're coming from. And that leads me to my last point, and that's behavior. A word that you said earlier is
Yeah.
because we can never behave our way out of something that we haven't behaved our way into.
Mm,
So watch how you behave. And I
yeah.
and I'll remember you forever for saying this. The only time is right now. The only time is present. That's the only thing that's guaranteed to us. And I'm not saying that because tomorrow I could get hit by a car, although that's possible. I can only control the next few minutes and
Yeah.
plan ahead.
Yeah.
But anything you want to ask me, anything you want to leave us with, Michael, and then
Well, I'd
we'll
love
wrap
the
this up.
same answer for you. And I know we talked about it as we first met, but I'd love to have you reflect back your purpose. And I know you've been through things that most people can't imagine recently, and I would just love to hear your story as well on that side and why you're here.
Yeah, the why I'm here, I didn't know until 2014. And at that moment, I realized that I was not living my life's purpose. And I didn't hear anything. I didn't have a big moment, or I read the Bible differently. I just knew that helping people buy and sell hotel franchises was great. I was on a fantastic team, one of the top producers, blah blah blah. But I said, why am I really here?
Yeah.
And it became so obvious. I'm on earth to help others get better. Well, what does that mean? Well, who has the most impact on others? Well, those are called leaders. Then I realized, well, what kind of leaders are more important? They're all important. And then I realized that the leadership and parenting, there's an incredible
Yeah.
parallel. And I
Yeah.
was becoming a dad for the first time. I had a 2 and a 4-year-old at the time, and one was natural born, one was adopted from Russia. But I was overwhelmed, Michael, and I didn't have a clue what I was doing because I really didn't take this opportunity to serve other people
Yeah.
first and
Yeah.
stop being, who what that the other side of that coin. And I was that guy, and I didn't
Yeah.
like it. So my short answer is I know I'm here to help others think differently. I'm here to challenge people to behave in a more kinder and more compassionate way. And I'm here to help people really recognize their own true potential. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to judge you. I'm going to help you get better. But I'm going to ask you, what do you want? And I'm listening to you. And then I'm going to be curious over and over and over to help you get to where you say you want. And I don't know, I don't care if that's a year and a half relationship or
Yeah.
that's a 90-second relationship. I know that's why I'm here.
Yeah. No, I love it, and I certainly, as an individual, I'm so thankful that we met through a
Yeah,
friend of mine that you know as well, that you had on the show, and I appreciate deeply you having me on, and people come into your life for different reasons, and I just so looking forward to this and future conversations, which I know will keep coming up in all sorts of ways. So thank you so much for having me today, and it's been great to know you and to get to know you, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow, as we talked about earlier.
absolutely. And let's call out Callie Wrestler because she's the one who recommended
Yes.
you. And Callie, thank you again. She's been just a bright light in my life, and she popped out of nowhere as well. So those of you that have been joining in, I appreciate it. Again, our guest from Sacramento, California, Mr. Michael Lopez. If you've gained anything from Michael, then I appreciate you letting me know. But one thing I want you to remember is where do you put compassion and collaboration in your work, ladies and gentlemen, and where do you find time to actually grow, and when are you going to make your growth more important than it was yesterday? Because as Michael mentioned, the only time we can control is today and be in the present. And so shift carefully, but shift whenever you possibly can, and get better, watch your speed, and be kind. I always say that, Michael. I like to remind people to be kind, to consider it to others, because at the end of the day, the judgment isn't going to be from people that are alive today. It's going to come from a different source,
Yeah.
regardless of what your belief is. And I appreciate your time today, Michael Lopez, and I look forward to hearing this and seeing what it turned out to be. And thank you.
Thank you, Greg.